So let's continue the conversation now with Daniel Silke, political analyst. Daniel, there's so many things that we can talk about, and let's continue with the aspect of security, because we know that the police minister is about to actually go and give officers their marching orders any moment now. And if we have those visuals, let's try and take it live. But just in terms of the significance of this having to be moved here, the July unrest report that came out as well just recently, there's a clear indication that the president has to address the issue of security.
Shahan, yes, I think that it's certainly symbolic that we should be having the SONA address in an alternative location, an historic one at that. But certainly the fact that a lack of physical oversight at the National Assembly, combined with the weakening state and the inability of the state to protect its own key installations, has caused this particular move and shift. So there's all sorts of symbolism about today. But certainly I think other than issues relating to politics within the ANC, the economic policy of the ANC, ordinary South Africans are feeling exceptionally uneasy about the state of the nation as it is today. And I think part of that is both their physical safety, their concern about their business, about their family, and clearly also the concern about the broader key installations in South Africa, not just the National Assembly, but obviously Eskom installations and possibly even other critical installations in the country. And I think, if anything, the president has to come clear on the urgency to beef up security and to have a credible protection of these institutions. It's one of the core messages of tonight.
The urgency from the president, we've heard it before. He's spoken about addressing gender-based violence urgently. You know, he's spoken about an economic recovery plan that was supposed to be urgent, job creation. So if he speaks with urgency tonight, do we actually believe it?
Well, you know, I was thinking about this coming here. He's got a soft-spoken style about him. I've yet to see the president really make an impassioned plea in an impassioned tone. It's a different style of his presidency. But I think he needs to shift that style. I think South Africans are certainly feeling the heat in many respects. And I think the softly, Mr. Nice Guy approach has worked up until now, but it's running short of fuel, to use a cliche. And I think this is now the time for him to inject real urgency into his words, but it's not just words. Actions speak louder than words. We've been talking about this for years and years, SONA after SONA. And I do think now he's running out of rope. There's an elective conference at the end of the year. The ANC is beginning to perform poorly and potentially might be a minority government by 2024. He has to shore up his own personal support, and he has to shore up those South Africans who are increasingly depressed and demoralized. And the softly, Mr. Nice Guy approach, I think, needs to shift to a much more urgent, realistic tone tonight.
Yeah. You mentioned Eskom and the lead up to the State of the Nation address. We've had load shedding. We spoke about an unbundling process for the entity so that we have a better run organization. We're still talking about it. Are we seeing improvements at all?
Everything happens at a snail's pace in South Africa, and many of these issues should have been addressed 10, 15 years ago, for that matter, particularly on the issues of Eskom and the shortage of electricity. I think that the broad thrust of government policy on paper is probably in the right place. But clearly it's the implementation which is lagging, and also the political will within the governing party, the ANC. The buy-in from the cadres within the ANC, has that message sunk home? Has the president and his own lieutenants within the leadership of the ANC been able to sell the necessity of critical reforms into his own political party? If he can't get this right in his own political party, he's going to find it very difficult to implement, and those who want to put obstacles in his way will do so using nefarious means and possibly attacking the security installations and key points that we've already mentioned. So I think there's a challenge here. There's a broader policy challenge for the president, but there's the internal battles that he has to face within his own party. And I think that's where the slowness has occurred. This inability to take his own party with him and to sell the necessary reforms within the ANC.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Because you have a party that has so many internal battles that is unable to work as fast as the country wants him to, which is why it's very, different to hear the possibility of the ANC actually not winning the 2024 elections. Is the ANC actually working on a self-demise because of these internal battles?
Yes, it's on a self-destruct mode, if it cannot get to grips with the reality of the multitude of crises that affect South Africa right now. And I think the ANC and the support for the ANC consistently in the last few, certainly, elections has shown that it is on a slide towards minority government. Now, South Africans are demanding better economic policies, more opportunities, greater equality, better security. And they're beginning to vote with their feet at election time. Voters are more fluid than ever before, and there are new political parties, and there might even be further political parties by 2024. So I think that real pressure now is on the ANC. And I do think political parties only really react when they feel as though they potentially will be booted out of power. That's when they wake up and smell the roses. So one would hope that from the ANC side, they either now need to move out of self-destruct mode, but that takes leadership from the president and his comrades. That takes buy-in. It takes a unified approach within the ANC to tackle the various issues. And for the moment, I don't see any great unity within the ANC. If anything, as we saw in the report about the KZN unrest last year, we've seen documented proof how the factionism within the ANC is really pushing it to potentially be a minority government by 2024.
Yeah, and jeopardizing the safety of the country, which is a huge indictment on the leadership of the ANC right now. Daniel, so thanks so much for your time. We're going to speak to you throughout the afternoon, so we'll talk about other stuff a little later on.